Hello, and welcome to the In the Word podcast. This is the podcast that will help you to understand God's Word, build a stronger relationship with God, and develop habits that will help you love God and others better. And now, here's your host, Trevor Pope.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. I pray that all of you guys are doing well. Listen, we have a great and special episode on today. We have a special guest, family, my cousin, Pastor Terrance Matthews of Jesus Tabernacle in Maryland. And listen, before we get into what we're going to talk about, I'm going to let him say hi to you, family. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Just an awesome man of God. I appreciate him being on. T, say what's up to the people, man.
Hey, cuz, thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on. It's a privilege and an honor just to be able to get on this platform with you, just to be able to fellowship and to be able to share. So I just want to say thank you. And to your audience, hello, I introduce myself. I'm Pastor Terrance Matthews of Jesus Tabernacle. A little bit about Jesus Tabernacle. We are a ministry that was actually founded out of our hometown, Bridgeport, Connecticut, many, many years ago. My best friend's grandfather launched the ministry, but unfortunately, he had passed when my best friend was very, very young, and so the church had dissolved for I think it was well over 25 years. And so him and I grew up in ministry together. We actually became preachers together, and then just life took us in different directions. And so when I relocated to Maryland, he's actually been relocated a few times, and he's currently down in Atlanta, Georgia. He actually relaunched his grandfather's church after many, many years of ministering and laboring in the ministry. He felt the Lord leading him to relaunch his grandfather's ministry, and then him and I have been talking about getting back together in ministry for many years. And so with my relocation to the Maryland area, it was a great opportunity, especially during the pandemic when physically churches were closing down and not being able to have fellowship. We went virtual, and so it was just a good time for us to come together and put together a strategy to relaunch a ministry that we're looking now toward launching physically. Now that everything's opening back up, we're definitely still taking our time. We're trying to be very prayerful and strategic about it. We're not rushing to get a physical building, because we know that this pandemic is still not over. So while we're not fearful about it, as leaders, we just want to be cautious and not to put anyone in any dire situation. So we're taking our time with it, and even with not only just the safety protocols, even right now, just with the whole real estate boom, everything that's happening. To be honest, everything is so expensive. Whether you're renting or you're looking to purchase, everything is just so expensive right now. So we're just trying to take our time to get the right place, the right location, so that when we do launch somewhere, we'll be able to be planted there, and won't have to worry about being uprooted or moved because just different reasons and issues. So we're excited about doing the work of the Lord. We are a ministry that is we specialize and we have a great desire to meet the needs of God's people. And so we have a lot of programs that we're looking to implement in impoverished communities, things that will not only help with funding, but providing food, providing shelter, providing clothing. We're also looking to get into education. We're looking to get into the prison ministries. We're looking to get into senior living or even senior daycare centers, things that can provide support for the elderly as well. So, we're just looking to do things that's going to benefit the people and, be a blessing to God's people in such a time as this. So that's pretty much it on that.
Amen. No, we appreciate that, man. And, that's what we need, man. We need strong ministries. We need strong leaders. The pandemic definitely showed us a lot, taught us a lot, not only about ourselves, but, about, some of the leadership and things that we thought were one way, we find out were another. But no, I appreciate you being on, man. I know you and your wife, Dayla, have added a new addition, I should say, Kennedy Quinn. I know you guys are
Yeah,
excited about that, man. I always see you posted up, when I'm hopping on Facebook, man, about how, it's such a joy, to have the new addition, your daughter, in your lives, man. So thank God for that. Congratulations again, too.
thank you, thank you. Yeah, those my babies, my big
Yeah.
baby and now my little baby, man. We are truly excited. She's been a blessing. She just turned 3 months
Wow.
on Monday, so you know it's awesome. I can't
Yeah.
really explain it. Your father, you understand. It's
Yeah,
something
man.
that you can't explain. I guess you just have to experience, parenthood to truly understand it. But it's a blessing.
Yeah, nah, it really is, man. And I'm excited about what we're going to talk about too today because, I've heard this conversation come up. I've watched people talk about it. I've seen videos, dealing with fraternities and sororities and being saved and being a Christian and, being in these organizations, or the question of, should I join this organization if you haven't joined it yet, or should I stay in the organization if I am currently in it? And I thought that you would be somebody great to talk to because I remember a couple years back a post that you posted up on Facebook, and I'm gonna read it. I thought it was very powerful because it was another young man at the same time, my brother Lee James. He had
Hmm.
posted something up about fraternities, and it was like right around the same time. And I think I saw his first, if I'm not mistaken. And what you posted was like confirmation, and I might have shared it with him. I can't really remember, but I just thought back then it was powerful. So recently, I started thinking about it again, like, man, I got to get T on, and talk about this because I see people having this conversation, and we know fraternities, sororities, different organizations is a big thing. But I want to read what you posted on March 29th, 2019. And this is what Pastor Terrance posted on Facebook. And it says, while today marks 16 years of becoming a brother and member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Inc., I respectfully want to inform brothers that I am no longer an active or participating member of the organization. While I enjoy the brotherhood, bonding, community service, outreach, and philanthropy, there are things that I no longer agree with, and due to my spiritual growth in my faith, I have chosen to renounce my affiliation. I know many will not agree with me, but as I have grown closer to God and Jesus Christ, my Lord has revealed many ungodly things to me that are rooted in the foundation of the fraternal orders. While I don't have any issue sharing with anyone who respectfully reach out to me, please know that this is my conviction and my decision, and you are respectfully entitled to your own. While I hope that some of the relationships and friendships that were established through the fraternity remain, I have truly embraced that possibility that some won't. Thank you in advance for respecting my decision. God bless. And I thought that was super powerful. And what I want to start off, or want you to start off with, is just kind of letting us know what school you attended. When did you join the fraternity, and what made you want to join?
So I actually attended Benedict College in Columbia, South Carolina.
Mm,
Back in 2001 was my freshman year. I actually pledged in the spring of 2003. And what drew me to so attending an HBCU, a historically black college university, you get to learn a lot about the black culture. And so even though being raised in a urban community, predominantly black and Hispanic community, it was just a lot of information, a lot of history that we just didn't learn about ourselves and about our people. And so, having the experience to attend a historically black college university, it was an eye opener. And so I got to experience a lot of great things and learn a lot about us and our history. And so one of the things that um, was, of course, presented is the historically um, black fraternities and sororities. And so people join for various reasons.
mm,
Some are looking for camaraderie, some are looking for brotherhood and sisterhood. Some are looking for looking for identity. trying to find themselves. And so for me, it was really an educational. First of all, it started off of as a historical thing, learning what the fraternities and sororities meant to us as a people. And so I was very intrigued about the history of the orders and why they were established and what was the need for them, and just the prominence of the different men and women who came through those organizations. And
Yeah.
so it really stuck out to me. You have so many different prominent leaders in the Black community from so many different. I mean, you have doctors and lawyers, and you have physicians and mathematicians. You got politicians. You got pastors. You got preachers. I mean, you have teachers, educators, people in technology. It's just so many, and so entertainers, athletes, and so just learning about the fraternities and sororities, it was very intriguing. And so for me, what drew me particularly to the organization that I became a part of was the education component, and then the standard of the Black man that they represented was phenomenal. And
Yeah.
so, as a freshman and first semester sophomore, seeing these brothers on campus walking around in suits and ties, going to classes. Now, as a freshman, right? Most freshmen, for most freshmen men during that time, we would go to class in pajamas and tank top shirts, man. You know what I mean? Like it was just because you was out all night, and then you trying to go to class the next morning, and so you wasn't dressed up. And so when I started seeing these brothers who were my age, right? These weren't professors, these weren't deans, these weren't scholars. They were students, right? Sitting in class in full blown suits. They walking around with briefcases, and it was different, and it just kind of like, man, that image. And so,
Yep.
and then coming to find out that these were the scholars. They were scholars. They held the highest GPAs on campus, and they did so much community activist work, and it was powerful. It was powerful to see, because again, coming from the communities, the urban, the neighborhoods we come from, the role models in most cases that we see are drug dealers, or
Yeah.
abusers, or drug users, people in and out of jail. And so these were the things that I was accustomed to seeing. So now, on the flip side, being in college, I'm now looking at men, my age, my peers back home. We didn't look like that. We didn't dress like that, unless you were, going to church. But outside of church, that wasn't the norm. And so
Yeah.
seeing that, it was intriguing. I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm like, man, it was a powerful statement for a Black man, to be educated, to be educating yourself, and to hold such a high standard, a perceived standard. And it wasn't a persona. It was, this is who we are. This is who we represent. And they took pride in it.
Yeah.
We took pride in it. And so that was something that really drew me to my fraternity, to that fraternity that I became a part of.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. And and what's so heavy is like I said, I've watched, people have discussions on this topic, and I've seen where people talked about, the different motives of people joining. And it's powerful how you talked about how education was your main focus, because a lot of times what you'll find is when you hear these conversations had, or let's say if people can be honest about why they join, a lot of times, some of them it was pride, some of them it was ego, some of them it was like the popularity, being able to be, connected, or, you
Mhm.
know, uh, join to that fraternity and having that prestige, and, walking the campus like, yeah, I'm a part of, Alpha Phi Alpha, or whichever fraternity they're a part of.
Right.
I've seen a lot of people say that. So for you to want to go in for educational purpose, that's powerful. And you're right. A lot of times what we see, especially coming from some of our communities, is we don't learn from the educational standpoint a lot about ourselves, and especially in some of the school systems that we may have come through. So to be able to tap into those things and then see young men where we didn't see them before, living out, this certain lifestyle. And, just with this professionalism, it definitely can be powerful, man. And, cause a lot of brothers, man, and sisters with the sororities to want to join. So no, that's definitely heavy. And, being that those were some of the things that you liked about it when you finally got in, and I want you to, talk a little bit more about some more things you liked about it. Cause I know even in the paragraph you had wrote on Facebook, you kind of talked about, a lot of the community service they were doing, the philanthropy and stuff like that. But also, what were some things, after you talk about that, what were some things that you saw that you really didn't like, or that kind of maybe rubbed you the wrong way, or maybe at the time you might not have had second thoughts, or maybe you did, but just kind of, you started rethinking some of, the decisions that you made as far as joining?
Yeah. So one thing I'll say to the first part of your question about the just the phenomenal things about these organizations, the work behind these organizations, it's all real, and that's the thing
Mm,
that's what really made it hard for me. And I'll get to the second part of your question in a few minutes. That's what really made it hard for me. And if I could be honest with you, it still makes it hard for me because I wasn't a disgruntled member. I wasn't unhappy with the organization. I wasn't, pushed out or ostracized. None of that. I
yeah,
actually stand by the work of the fraternities and sororities. I loved everything about it.
yeah,
And so, it wasn't just, yeah, it was the brotherhood. It was the community work. I mean, we did so much stuff. We had so many different types of programs. I was a mentor through the organization. I became a mentor for the high school, go to high school, go to college program where we mentored at risk youth, and a lot of them
mm,
were like athletes who just who were great in sports but not great academically. And and then when the rules started to change for athletes, because back in the day, if you were a good athlete, they just kind of passed you along because they started writing on the wall that you were gonna make it, and kind of put them on whatever level school you're at. But that's kind of changed. Now
yeah,
athletes, they have to excel academically, or at least on the passing scale. And so being able to work those programs like that, being able to, do voter registration and, help people learn how to vote, the rights to vote, that was really big, especially in the Black community, where you got a lot of our people who just don't feel the need to vote and think it's important, and whatever. And so being a part of this movement where you're with like-minded brothers and sisters who are pushing pushing the information to help people understand the value of their votes. And so, and then we did cleanup, we did community cleanup projects. Man, we would literally go into communities, and we would go out and we would clean the streets, we would clean yards, we would help some of the elderly people. So there was just so many different things that we just that I was just blown away by. And so, like, when
yeah,
you're on the outside looking in, on a lot of things, you don't really know what it is until you get in, right? And so you're kind of
mm,
like, you see the on the outside, you see the shell, you see the cover of things, right? Or you see the outer, and so you're like, wow, it looks good. But then when you get on the inside of it, you're like, wow, this is actually better than what it looked like on the outside. And that was my experience, being in the organization. And so, when I was having this conversation with one of my god brothers, he's a part of another organization, another fraternity, and he was really like, man, what turns you? And I'm like, I was trying to explain to him, like, this is not a disgruntled, this wasn't a disgruntled thing. This wasn't,
yeah,
I don't have any issues. I actually admire the work and what the brothers are doing. I mean, I loved everything about it. I mean, even at my job now, we have a mail distribution list where we literally communicate with all brothers all over the nation. And so we
mm,
constantly are communicating. Brothers are traveling, and they're connecting with each other, and there's so many just different things that you just so many just wonderful things about the organizations, bonding, the connecting, the backing, just so much stuff, the promotion
yeah,
of just the betterment of Black men and Black women. And so that for me was just like I was blown away. And again, to go back to my original statement I said earlier, I wasn't used to seeing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I saw anything positive, it was kind of like here and there. I had a few people in my life, that were very different, but the majority of the things that I was surrounded around was totally different. And so now I'm in an environment where the majority was the opposite. The majority of the men, the young men that I was around, were very different. They were hardworking men. They were
Mm.
scholars. They were educators. They were, they believed in the empowerment of Black people. And man,
Yeah.
it was phenomenal, to just be a part of,
Hmm.
and to to excel. And it was about the work. And that's the thing that I really enjoy about it so much is, it's about the work. It's about the people. I
Yeah.
think that for people who join, fraternities and sororities for the whole ideal of image, or the whole ideal of trying to just be a part of something because you like the party or whatever, that is the wrong reasons. It's about the work. And when you really learn the true history of the Black community, the Black culture, you understand the value of the work. And that's what they stand on. And so that was something that, and even to this day, that's something that I really, I really commend, and I really applaud, because they mean what they mean what they speak. They do it. They live it. They walk it, and it's real on all levels. There's the college level, and then there's the graduate level, and these brothers and sisters are really, they're really doing it. Most of the time, when you see in our communities, when you see a push for the betterment of something, nine
Yeah.
times out of ten, it's being driven by somebody who's a part of one of these organizations. Hands
Yeah.
down, hands down. It's driven by you. When you see something that's being promoted, that's bringing a better change to Black communities, nine times out of ten, it's being driven by somebody who's a part of one of these organizations, because they get it, they understand it.
Yeah. So basically, what things did you see once you got in that you didn't really like, or you didn't really agree with, that, rubbed you the wrong way?
So the major answer to that question, was the ritual, and going through the process of being inducted. And so, as a young man going through this process, um, well, initially, when going through the process, I was unaware of a lot of the things that I needed to do and or say, to become a member. And so, you're just under a lot of different stresses and pressures. Your anxiety is high. You just a lot of emotions. You're excited. There's
Mm.
just so much going on. And so, you're kind of just pretty much saying whatever they tell you to say. You're doing whatever that they tell you to do, and you're just looking for the finish line. And so, and then you just happy to be a part of. You're happy to celebrate. And so, for me, it was really the second time around, seeing it from the inside. What
Mm.
takes part in the rituals. Um, even back then, I was what, 19, 18, 19, and I felt bothered, my spirit. And I could say that now, but I couldn't say that then. Like, I couldn't say it was my spirit. Something was bothering me, and I just
Yeah.
didn't understand it. I'm like, man, this just doesn't seem. You know what I mean? It just doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? Oaths, and the things that you verbally make a pledge to, and allegiance and all that. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, again, I'm like, wow, did I say that? Did I do that? And so, seeing it over and over and over again, as you continue to, initiate it and bring over, it just got to a point where I'm like, I became uncomfortable. And that's really what the gist of me, finally, after 16 years. Because, matter of fact, that day that I wrote that post, that was our anniversary. That was our crossing anniversary after 16 years. And I would say, for many years, and I struggled with it. So what ended up happening is, when I graduated college, I kind of took a break, and then I took a break, and I joined grad chapter, and then again seeing it, I was like, well, maybe that was just there. Maybe it's different. And when I was able to see it up, in another chapter, and then again, I had the privilege of being able to actually read the ritual and read all the way through it. And I was like, yeah, man. And then there was just conversations like down through the years with different brothers, um, questioning just different things. And it's in the same thing. Some of the chants and some of the songs and just some of the again, just the oaths that you take. And so I remember when I first came home, I first came back to Connecticut. Um, I think when I first moved back to Connecticut, about a year later, I started preaching. And I remember one of my um, brothers. I'll call him big brother in the faith. He's a pastor, Pastor G. Every time Pastor Reggie, every time he saw me, he used to say to me, God told me to tell you, you come up out of that fraternity. And he'll laugh, and I didn't understand it. Like I didn't get it. I'm like, what? And every time, it never failed. I don't care where we were. Every time he saw me, he was like, God told me to tell you, come up out of that fraternity. And I was
Yeah.
just like, what? I ain't get it. And then as I started to really dig into the scriptures as a preacher, I started to see what God says about taking oaths and what God says about, the things you speak over your life or
Mm.
even just a participation of rituals within itself. And then you begin to learn, the history behind rituals. And you're like, whoa, 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 and then start to play back in my mind all the things that I've seen, and then trying to remember the things that I went through in my induction, myself, and it just hit me. It hit me like a ton of bricks, and so that was that thing for me. It was like these oaths and these rituals, and the foundation of these oaths and these rituals, and then the things that are done within within the rituals that's
Yeah.
just it's just bothersome. And so um and again it was just like it's funny because I never even asked Pastor G if he was ever a part of any organization. I don't even know if he was or wasn't,
Yeah.
but he he knew I was, and he would just say that, and it was just subtle, it's subtle. I just told me to tell you, come up out of that fraternity. And he would leave it like that. It was never, we just chop it up. We keep talking about other things, and I never, and so when I started to really come to the light, the understanding of how God feels about oath taking,
Yeah.
and about rituals and dedication and these types of practices, it was like it messed me up. I had to repent. I had to really, really repent. And
Wow.
so what I ended up doing was I ended up just kind of scaling back. And I was like, well, okay. Yeah, I tried not to. I said, well, I won't participate in this. I won't go to the, I won't participate in the induction and the rituals anymore. I'll just do this. And it never settled right. And for me to have fully repented, I had to come up out of it. And it
Yeah.
was hard. It was hard because, like I said, I don't have no issues, and and everything about the organization on the surface, I love.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I can stand on it even till this day. I love it. But when
Yeah.
I think back about, when I think over how you become a part, and then even and again, just even having conversations with other people of other fraternal orders, whether fraternities or sororities. I have friends who are part of other organizations who came to that same revelation after they
Mm.
got saved.
Yeah.
And so, I had a college friend of mine. She was a Delta, and same school. Matter of fact, I think we might have crossed the same year.
Wow.
And she she posted up. I had communicated with her through Facebook. She had posted up a post similar to mine about renouncing, and the reason why. Got a homegirl back in Connecticut. One of my wife's homegirls back in Connecticut. Same thing with her. She was
Yeah.
a Delta, and when she got saved, she renounced, and to the point where I think she like wrote an official letter to the organization, like I'm done, take off everything, like I completely, whatever. And
Wow.
so I'm like, I know I'm not bugging, like I know I'm not crazy,
Yeah.
because there's so many people that I personally know who, when they came to Christ, they're like, I got to get out of this. And for them, it was the same. It was the same situation. They loved everything. And it
Yeah.
was hard because they have, you know, most of us, we have nothing horrible, nothing bad to say about nothing bad to say, other than the fact that you look at the scriptures talking about oaths and the things things you dedicate and make allegiances to, and then when you look at what these actual organizations do, you're like, the scriptures don't line up with that. Matter of fact, the scriptures are contrary to that. And you got to make a
Mm,
decision.
yeah. No, that's powerful. And I want to say this too, man. That was one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to you, because when I read the paragraph that you wrote, 2 years ago now, the one thing that I saw, and it's so real, is that the respect you still had for the work that they did, but yet, because it contradicted, not the work that they did, but like you said, the different rituals and oaths, because it contradicted the scriptures, the word, and what Christ wanted for you, you had to let it go. And that's why I appreciate talking to you, because it's not like I'm talking to somebody that's bitter or they got kicked out and now all of a sudden, oh, you can't be saved and be in a fraternity. It's like, no, I loved everything they were doing, but yet, the underlying things, that the spiritual side of things was going against the scriptures. And that's the thing that's a lot of times not talked about, because I've seen videos where they're saved people and they try to justify why they're still in it, but they act like the oaths and the rituals don't mean anything. And I
Right.
remember one time, listening to a guy, he was talking about, some of the different chants and poems. And I remember he said
Yep.
that he recited some type of poem called Invictus. And he
Invictus.
said
That's
that,
that's the main one.
yeah, he was like, he said it totally went against, Christian beliefs. He was like, I think inside the poem you mentioned, other gods. And he pretty much still knew the
It's
poem
whatever God they
verbatim.
may be.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
yeah, whatever God
Yeah.
they
And
may
that was
be.
crazy, man.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the that's the crazy thing about it. And, it's funny, mentioning um some of I've been in places where I watched other organizations. And it's so funny because I've been places with people who are part of different organizations, and when they see other organizations and their chants, and they can call out other organizations. So I was actually with my guy brother, and we was at an event, and he actually heard somebody for some other sorority and their chant. This is what I've been trying to tell him for years. Like, him and I have been talking about it. And he even caught it. He was like, yo, that's kind of dark. And I'm like, yo, they all like that. And so he was like, yo, what is this? That's dark. I'm like, yours is like that too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so yeah, these chants, man, these poems. I remember one time, man, I was in a conference. I was still in college. I was still in undergrad. I was in a conference, and a young brother from USC, University of South Carolina, he stood up in the middle of the conference, bro, and it was crazy because, again, growing up in church, you learn a lot, but then you just I don't know, I just didn't have that boldness, and so sitting in there, and he stood up, he said, I got a question, I never forget this. He said, I got a question to ask. It was like, yeah, what's the question? He says, when we chant, Alpha Phi Alpha, the light of the world, I should ever hold it high. That's a chant. That's a song. He says, but if Jesus is the light of the world, wouldn't that be
Mm,
blasphemous? And bro, it was probably like 1,000 brothers in there. It was quiet, quiet.
mm.
Nobody.
Wow.
And then the head speaker at the podium, he was like, "Yo, we got to table that. And come back to that." He was like, "Good question." My brother was like, "Yo, he said that right." And this, man, young college brothers. He stood
Yeah.
up and he was like, "If Jesus is the light of the world, wouldn't this chant be blasphemous?" Nobody can answer the question.
Wow.
And so just little things like that, you know what I mean? And so again, just and this is what I believe for me. I believe these were little things that God was just dropping on me, letting me see,
Yeah.
because He knew there was going to be a time period where I would have to make a decision, and I couldn't refute it. I couldn't deny it. I couldn't be like, nah, that ain't it, or listen. I have had conversations, hard down conversations with brothers, and I talk to them specifically about the oath, specifically about the rituals. And I've been
Mm.
told on numerous occasions, yeah, man, but we choose to turn our heads, we choose to look to the other side for the greater good. And I'm like, yo, and that's the thing. And so, it's not, in my opinion, it's not something that's not known. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I guess some people don't care to see it. And
Yeah.
this is what I like. I was trying to explain, like, to when I was talking to some people. The thing about the college orders is you don't repeatedly go through rituals. You go through once. That's
Yeah.
the thing. You go through it. Once you're done, you're done. You never have to go through it again. And matter of fact, you never have to participate in it if you don't want to. And so I
Yeah.
think what happens with a lot of brothers and sisters when they go through it, it's a very high stress time period because you want to cross and you want to get through it. And you got to study. You're studying. So it's a whole lot of stuff. You got to learn this. You got to learn information. And so for a lot of people, once they get through it, they never look back. Not too many
Yeah.
people I know will actually go and ask, "Oh, can I read the ritual or even participate in it?" The whole
Yeah.
idea of crossing other brothers or sisters, that's a selective pool of people. Most people don't ever have the opportunity to do that. And
Yeah.
so you just can't be like, yo, I wanna place the next line. Like, no, that's a selection pool, what I mean, that you gotta be a part of. There's training for that.
Yeah.
You can't just do it. So you got a lot of brothers and sisters who never ever they don't really remember what they went through and they never actually see anybody else go through it. So they never have any recollections of what these oaths and rituals are. All they're looking at is the word. That's it.
Wow.
So you don't
Yeah.
go you don't go through it again. And so it's one of those situations. It's out of sight, out of mind. You know
Wow.
what I
I was
mean?
just
And
about to say that.
so
Yeah.
it's out of sight, out of mind. And unless you want to be, there's teams like there's groups and teams for everything. You know what I'm saying? You don't do everything, right? There's certain things that you're good at. You don't. If you're good at doing the programs, you do the programs. If you're good at the education piece, you do the education piece. If you're good at philanthropy, you do philanthropy. Everybody finds their niche. And so not everybody participates in the induction, in the inducting of other brothers and sisters. Most people never actually see that process.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's deep. And you know what? Like you said, out of sight and out of mind. And then it's like when it is out of sight and out of mind, you kind of forget. It's almost like you've forgotten the commitment that you made and how serious that
Right.
commitment was. You know what I mean? And like you said, some choose to kind of just, look at it with a blind eye because I remember watching some young people kind of they were saved, they said they were saved and that, they kind of stood on the side of you could be saved and be in it. But what I noticed is, they didn't talk about the oaths or the rituals. They didn't really mention none of that. And they kind of was trying to clean it up with, or I won't even use the word clean it up, but they were trying to kind of justify their stance by, you know, we established with them who we were as Christians early. So when we got in, they knew what type of people we were. So they won't necessarily ask us to do certain things. But yes, but yet and still they may not. But you had to do those oaths and those rituals. And then they would be like, oh, well, if I'm there for a brother, if he's drinking and he's drunk, like all of that's good and well. But you don't want to forget the things that you said and the commitments that you made because God really takes those serious. And even one brother I remember watching one time, and he was talking about even when it comes to hazing, people that took part in hazing, he was like, really, hazing is illegal. So he was like, if you're saved and that, he just was what he because he had been in a fraternity for years and eventually had to do the same thing you did. And he just was saying that these were the things that he started to look back on when the Lord revealed those things to him. You know what I mean? And I think that that's super powerful because I haven't had the opportunity or didn't have the experience to have this conversation, even though I've listened to the conversations, but I don't have any experience in it to say, what goes on or yay or nay, and that's why I said I truly appreciate you because it was coming from a genuine place because you love the organization and what they did and how they helped the communities, but it's like that stand for the Lord. Like that's the thing about being saved. It's like, God is, he's real firm and it's either me or this. It's either me or that or me or them. And, for you to be able to, by the grace of God, make the decision and say, you know what? I got to let this thing go because it's going against the word of God. And it reminds me of this lady, man. She was just telling a testimony about her and her husband. And I guess her and her husband, I don't know if they met in college, but they both were a part of fraternities. Now they're both, they both denounced the fraternity. And she said that they fasted and prayed and they denounced and left the group. I think she left a little bit before he did. But when I thought about, the word denounce, when you look up the word denounce, it's to give formal notice of the termination or denial of a treaty, pact, agreement, or the like. But there's another definition, and that's basically what you're kind of doing. But there's another definition that says to announce or proclaim, especially as something evil or calamitous. And I thought that was pretty deep. But
Mm.
she said that she had to, she prayed and fasted with her husband. And I think she left a little bit before he did. And then he finally left altogether. But this was something that I didn't expect because this was kind of the first time I've heard this, and maybe you could speak to it. Maybe it happened to you, maybe it didn't, or you know anything about it. But she said what she didn't expect was the spiritual attacks that came afterwards. She said things would be in her room. She felt like things were holding her down and covering her mouth. And we've talked about that because we know, that's happened to me, and I ain't never been in a fraternity. So we know those things. We talked about that, about things holding you down and you trying to scream out in your bed type of stuff. But yeah, she said that she went through, a lot of heavy attacks after she, completely parted ways with it. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, or if you've seen anything like that or heard anything like that.
So the spiritual warfare that I went through was actually before that time period. That's coming into ministry. Those types of attacks. And I think I don't know if we shared this stuff before, like you and I, or with
Yeah.
the brothers on the polo. It wasn't directly related to me leaving the organization. It was more so directly to me dealing with the ministry of demon possessed. And so
Mm,
having those attacks on me, dealing with the suicidal thoughts, dealing with, seeing people with disfigured faces, not being able to sleep at night, waking up with my bed shaking, or, having terrors where I'm literally hearing people like voices screaming in agony, like in hell, and I can't get it out of my head, like different things of that nature that I've experienced. That
yeah.
was more so dealing with the ministry walk that I had to endure, for the purpose of learning how to deal with people who are demonically possessed and dealing with the casting out of demons, because that was a big part of the ministry that got it placed on my life and what I was a part of, where I
Yeah.
came from. Um, in regards to the the fraternal side of things, no, I can't actually say that I directly experienced anything other than losing relationships.
And that was going to be my next
Yeah,
question.
yeah, definitely lost relationships. It was brothers I would communicate with pretty regularly throughout the years. They stopped taking my phone calls. They
Oh,
stopped they
wow.
stopped responding to me. I've had different milestones in my life that I would normally get something from, and from them, and I haven't. And so I was prepared for that.
Yeah.
I was definitely aware that that was a possibility. And the reason why is because you know, um, people. I've learned that people, when you identify your identity is rooted in uh when your identity is rooted in a cause, or when your identity is rooted in a thing, right? And you feel like when somebody rejects that thing, they oppose you.
Yeah.
And so I think that I have a lot of brothers whose identity is rooted in the fraternity. And so when I made my declaration to leave the fraternity, they felt slighted that I was something toward them. That's what I
Yeah.
believe. And so, yeah, man, a lot of relationships were broken, and yeah, just a lot of people. Just haven't heard from anymore. Like I said, if I've made attempts to reach out, and they just now won't respond. So it's to that, you know what I mean. And so, and and I just wanted to kind of give this. I was, when I was sort of thinking about it, for people who are going to listen and they think that we have people who are going to listen who are part of the organizations.
Mm-hmm.
There's a thing. I don't know if it's still the thing, but back in the day, there's a thing about if you're a real member or not. They call fake members paper brothers, paper sisters. That means you didn't go through the process. You wasn't pledged. You didn't go through that. And I'm like, so my disclaimer to that is I'm actually a pledged brother and a branded brother.
Yeah.
Meaning that I actually branded. I got branded.
Wow.
And I got branded afterwards. I got branded a year and a half after I was a member. So no, it's not something that the organization pushes. Matter of fact, Alpha Phi Alpha in particular does actually speaks against branding.
Yeah.
It was a homecoming. We had some old heads. We call them old heads, some old school brothers who got into branding back in the '80s or whatever. They brought branding back, and I was just a part of that knucklehead crew that had something to prove.
Yeah.
So I'm branded, and so by saying that too is, this is something that I have to look. When I look in the mirror, it's something I see every day.
Yeah.
And so and I say, man, God, why'd you allow me to get branded if you knew I was gonna come, if you was gonna bring me to this revelation,
Mm.
like I was talking to, when I had to have these conversations with other brothers or other people, organizations, and they get on that that whole thing. And I'm like, yo, if most of them, I like, listen, if you make a decision one day that you no longer want to be a part of the fraternity or sorority, you can take off. You can take off your jackets. You can take off your shirts. You can take off your hats. You can take off your lanyards and all that stuff. You'll never have to put it on again. There's nothing that ever identifies you with that. I got this
Yeah.
marking in my body for the rest of my life.
Wow.
And so, people like if you think I wasn't real about it, no, that's how real it was. That I literally allowed myself to be branded with these letters in my skin that I
Yeah.
gotta have in my skin. I'm gonna die with these letters in my skin. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's to me, that was how loyal, that's how real it was for me. That's how dedicated I was. And it was foolish. It's foolish. I was 19 years old, so it was definitely foolish. But
Yeah.
at that time, that's how I felt by showing my allegiance, so to speak, to the
Yeah. Yeah.
organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, definitely, man. I meant, the fact that, God brought you to the revelation, is a powerful thing. But, that's how the Lord, sometimes allows us to, because I definitely have situations in my life, being saved where I'm like, man, you could have avoided, you could have helped me avoid that whole situation and not had even dealt with it. But God, He works in His own way, in His own timing, and He obviously knows what's best. But yeah, I definitely appreciate you, man, just sharing, you know, your experiences, your heart, the different things that God showed you. Because yeah, that was the thing I was going to ask you last, was about the relationships, because I remember you saying that in the paragraph that you wrote, that you hope that it didn't come to that, you know um that you keep those relationships, because they are real relationships, you know what I mean, that we hope is just not connected, through the organization. It's just like being in church. Like,
Yeah,
I have people that I've known that went to the church where I was going, that's gone now. I hope that when I see them, that relationship is still there. It don't have to be just so much connected to them being a part of that congregation, so to speak. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
unfortunately, sometimes you do run into people and it don't seem like they, what I mean, want to still have those relationships. So, nah, man, I definitely appreciate you, man, hopping on with me and sharing some of that. And if there's any final thoughts or something you want to say to those that may be, thinking about pledging, because I've ran into videos where, like they were saved young, and I'm not sure now, were you saved before you pledged, or did you get saved during, or how did that go?
So So I got saved when I was 16.
Okay.
Um, but at that age, I gave my life to the Lord when I was 16. But at that age, I'll honestly say I didn't really know what I was doing, and so
Yeah.
life took its toll. Like I went off to college, and and so for me, I had a life where I backslid, and I tried, I held on. It was crazy. I guess what was really crazy about my freshman year experience, in particular, my one of my closest buddies, one of my boys, man, he lives down there in South Carolina. I just saw him recently, and one of the things they used to say,
Yeah.
my nickname in college was Rev, even before I became a preacher. And that was
Wow.
because when they met me my freshman year, I was literally like, I was all about the gospel, bro. Like my freshman year, I didn't hang out. I wasn't going to clubs. I wasn't partying. Like Ash used to literally come to my room for counseling. Like as a freshman, they said every time they saw me, they just saw me with the Bible in my hand. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of where I was. And then, college life kind of took over, where it's like I started hanging out, I started partying, I started drinking, started smoking. And so, started having sex. And so for me,
Yeah.
um, my walk kind of took the back seat for a while. And I struggled with that because I was still trying to go to church. I was still praying. I was still trying to believe. But I just went through a period of different things, and then I went through a period of not knowing what to believe. And again, even just with this the whole black culture, black history, and that's a whole nother conversation when you're dealing with um, the black experience and even Christianity and the European interpretation, all that stuff. The
Yeah.
European interpretation, it started, and just learning that stuff, it messed with me. And so life just took a different toll. So God had to really come and grab me back, if I could be honest, because I wasn't walking with him like I should have been. And matter of fact, there was a point in time where I just wasn't walking at all, and I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm not sure about this Jesus thing.
Yeah.
And so during that time period, I would have to be. I know I wasn't saved. I knew about God. I knew about Christ because I was raised in the church. But I took a 180 turn, and I was going in a different direction, trying to really find myself, find the truth, find whatever it is that I guess I think I thought I was looking for,
Yeah.
or trying to find. So that's kind of where I was, at that moment. I think before I go, if anything that what I would honestly say to anybody who's listening, who is a part of any organization, and you feel some type of way about what was discussed today, before you allow yourself to get upset or angry about it, what I want you to do is I want you to really take a deep dive into the history of your organization. Take a deep dive into the understanding of what oaths you took, what rituals, what was actually being said and done. And
Mm.
reason why I say that is because when I first started going through this process of feeling this conviction, I would see different posts on YouTube, and every time I saw a post on YouTube, it was weird because it was like I wasn't really looking for it. This stuff was popping up. Like God was just throwing stuff at me. But every time I would see somebody post something about the fraternity and why they left, it made me angry. I was like, man,
Yeah.
they wasn't, and I had that thought. They wasn't real. They not this, they not that. Even though I knew in the back of my head, like, yo, this is what God has been telling me for the last several years. Like, the Holy Spirit has been telling me about this. I struggle with that because
Yeah.
because I'm like, nah, there's so much greatness. Like, this got to be a lie. This got to be false. And so, people are gonna make whatever they're gonna make. But I want you to understand what you are, if you're not in it, you're interested, what you are getting yourself a part of. Know what you are doing before you do it. And because the reality is this, nobody was there to tell me that. Nobody was there to stand up for me and say, well, with the college fraternity, I was on my way to make some other decisions. I was in the
Yeah.
process of joining some other fraternal orders, and I had people who I believe God sent to me who are actually a part of these orders. Like, yo, this is not, no, no, you don't belong here. No, 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 no. And
Wow.
so and that's a whole nother thing. But God, man, God was really with me because I was on my way doing some other things. And I literally had brothers of these organizations like come to me like, yo, let me share something with you. And then be like, you can make a decision with this information, what you want to do after I share it with you. And they shared it with me. He's like, "What you think?" I'm like, "God, it's like that's what I thought. This ain't for you. This ain't what you supposed."
Yeah.
And so I was grateful for that. Nobody, but so I didn't have anybody to stand up for me to say, "Hey, do some research before you join. Do some research." You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Don't just take my word for it. Don't take how I feel about it. Don't take my perspective. Do some research. Information is out there. And that's the
Yeah.
thing that people, we're in the age of information. It's a lot of this stuff is not hidden anymore because a lot of this stuff had to be exposed. It had to be brought out for legal purposes because when hazing became illegal in this country, they actually had to reveal a lot of the information from the fraternal orders. So this
Yeah.
information is out there. You just got to look for it.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? What you call what people think is like secret. Nah, it's out there. It's
Yeah.
out there. So if you really really want to know, like, okay, I want to join this organization. You really want to know, the information is out there.
Yeah.
They had to release it because again, once the pledging process became legal, most of these organizations had to go before the court system to prove,
Yeah.
it's a lot. That's why it's a federal offense. It's a federal offense for a reason. The government knows exactly what takes place and what's done. So that information is out there. Look for it.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
No.
Look for it. Go to the library. These books are in the library.
Yeah. Wow.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I know people don't want to go to. I know a lot of people don't go to libraries anymore, but um, you go to the library, you can find a lot of these books out there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I would just say, if you are listening, you're a believer, you're a Christian. If you're in an organization and and if you know what if you know that you know what I'm saying, you've been convicted, let the Lord lead you. And if you don't know, do the research before you
Yeah.
get all upset and get out of shape. Understand what you seriously understand what you made an oath to.
Yeah.
And if you're okay with that, then you know that's you. If you're okay
Yeah.
with that, that's you. But at least know what it is that you made an oath to.
Yeah, yeah, and that's very important because you said it earlier, man. When the Bible, when the Lord talks about making oaths, He's very specific about what He says about that, and how He's going to deal with that and what you should and should not do. And once again, I want to say thank you because I'm not learned in this area, so I would have never had the opportunity to talk about it, but being that you are, and I think why we truly, all of us, everybody that's listening to the podcast, me, myself, why we truly appreciate you is because you're talking from your heart. You're telling them, go research. Don't take my word for it. Like, this isn't personal. Love what the organization was doing and is still doing. But listen, there's some things that, you have to look into and be honest with yourself about because, we all know who would you rather be upset with you when it's all said and done? A relationship or organization, a family member, whatever you may be dealing with right now that you could be putting before God. Who would you rather be upset about your decision, God or that other thing? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, yeah,
we definitely appreciate you being on, cuz man, and just dropping on us some of the things you saw, some of the things you experienced, some ways that those that are thinking about pledging or thinking about leaving or thinking about staying, that they can look into because we got to be honest with ourselves and be honest with God. You know what I mean? It is a strong pull. Anything where somebody's doing good and they're making moves and there's some prestige there, whatever the case may be, it can be hard to pull away, man. But before we go, man, is there anywhere where the audience, man, the podcasters, the ones that are listening could go and join you at, whether that's social media outlets, maybe the church website? Just give us your information, man. We appreciate you.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I could be found on Facebook, Terrance F Matthews. You can actually find us at Jesus Tabernacle ATL. The Instagram and the Facebook page is Jesus Tabernacle ATL. ATL as in Atlanta. Reason being that's when our senior pastor launched the original campus. So the social media pages is under Jesus Tabernacle ATL. I can also be found on Instagram, TF_Matthews, my personal one, as well. And so yeah, those are pretty much the three social medias. I have a business one as well for my bow tie business, but that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, nah, man. I appreciate you, man. Yo, you're a man with many hats on, man. You got the family, the church, the business. Man, I truly appreciate you. We got to have you back on because we have so many, me, you, brother, Christian Rose, Pastor Rose, all of us, all the other brothers, man. We have some great conversations that I think, we need to, have some of us have on the podcast and just on the internet period, man, because there's so much going on, and we really get it in and chop it up. So I'm definitely going to have you back, man, on some other topics and subjects. But I want to say once again, thank you for joining us. I know many people are going to get a lot out of this. And guys, thank you for joining us. We love you. We appreciate you. And I just want you guys to just show Pastor Matthews love. Go visit him on his different social medias. Let him know you heard the podcast. If you got testimonies from this podcast to where it helped you make a decision or dig into some things and find out some truth, please hit him up or hit me up. I can relay it to him. However you got to do it, man. Show the love, guys. Know that we love you. And until the next time we hop on the podcast together, shalom.